hot, bold, sweet, smooth, and always flavorful. Welcome to my morning coffee. 3 generations of successful women, brewed with black girl magic, and French press with class, sass, and style. Gia, Tanya, and Sarita are my morning coffee.
Well, welcome to another edition of My Morning Coffee, where the conversation is always hot, bold, and full of flavor. And today, we brought a pretty flavorful individual into the conversation. Hold on, he might be stuck. Did you get stuck on us, Jim?
Well, I see him twice.
He likes that. Yeah, so we brought in James Bryant of the Cochran firm. So while he tries to figure his life out, we're going to go ahead and get started talking about what's in your cup. How have you been? What have you been up to? And how is COVID treating you? Let's go ahead and get started with you, Gia, while Jimmy figures it out.
All right. Well, I have coffee in my cup this morning, which is much needed. I'm a little tired. And what have I been up to? Well, yesterday I did the Hollywood Artisan Market again. So that was it was a beautiful day yesterday. So it was always good being out with other creatives and other artists and stuff. So the market is looks like it's picking up. The crowd was a little bit bigger. They got more food vendors there, and some of the food was actually good. I had some smoked salmon taquitos. I don't remember the name of the business because Jeff went and got the food for us. So, but it was delicious. So I did that yesterday, and that's pretty much it. I was at home over the weekend, didn't do much. A couple of friends came by.
Oh, you having people over? Oh.
No, I'm not really having people over. One of my besties, we were trying to catch up, and she had texted me during the week to say, hey, she was free this weekend. And we were supposed to go to happy hour, but of course it got late and we decided not to go out to happy hour place. So I just told her to come by. And so we made, I'm not going to say we, I'm always talking about we. And y'all, Lord knows I ain't making not one thing. We had mango margaritas. So, courtesy of Mr. Sneed, he made the mango margaritas for us and stuff. So we just had a little cocktail and caught up a little bit because it got late. She didn't come by till later on in the day. So that pretty much was it. Then of course, my sissy and her husband stopped by for a brief moment. They didn't stay long, but then because they had to leave, my sister's eye kind of puffed up. If you're watching, hey Rashawn, she tries to blame it on Jada because she had rubbed Jada and all of a sudden her eyes start swelling up, but she'd been around Jada a whole bunch of times. So she had Jada feeling all bad, telling me it was all her fault. But her eyes swelled up really, it was really bad. I was like, oh my God, has that ever happened before? And she's like, no. So we kind of laughed about that. And that's pretty much it that I've been up to besides working. I'm still going to work every day. Thank God for that, though. Thank God. Don't get me wrong. Thank God for that. But,
So is the event picking up? This is, every weekend you say it picks up a little bit more. I know the weather's been really nice.
Yeah, I haven't been going because it's every Sunday. The event is every Sunday from 11 to 4. The Hollywood Artisan Market. It's on Cahuenga, just north of Hollywood Boulevard. So I've opted to do like every other week, just because it's just right now I got so much going on. Every week is just I think would be a little bit much. So I'm choosing to do every other week. So I didn't go last weekend, but I did talk to one of the vendors that was there last weekend, and she was there the week before last with me. And I asked her how was it, how did she do? And she said it wasn't as busy as she thought it would be because it was so hot last weekend. So she assumed a lot of people would come out and be out and about, but the crowd wasn't, I guess that much. But today, when I'm comparing to the last time I was there, last Sunday, it was I think we had more people this past Sunday than the previous Sunday that I was there. So.
Well, good. I liked your little get up that you had on the mahogany box and your wrap. You was looking kind of nice.
Oh, you like that? Yeah, it was on my shirt too. You couldn't probably see my shirt, but I have an image of me that's on the hair wrap on my shirt. So I'm thinking about maybe making more and selling those. Because everybody else is walking around with, y'all want to walk around with, everybody else. Y'all can walk around with me on your T-shirt. Hey, look, I'm famous too. See, I'm on a cup.
All right. Well, now that we got Jimmy back, why don't you let us know what's in your cup? Do you have a cup? What you got?
I have a cup.
Mm-hmm.
This is coffee. It is very early.
Okay.
If it wasn't so early, I'd be drinking tequila, and I'd be drinking Huelo tequila.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that Huelo tequila.
Huelo tequila. Well, you guys will probably hear a lot about it pretty soon. It's a brand new premium tequila, probably the best in the world. Now, I'm not kidding when I say that. It's a sipping tequila, so it kind of changes the conversation about tequila. Oftentimes when you drink tequila, you get this nasty sort of bite at the end, but it's completely smooth from our Plata, which is the Blanco, all the way to our Extra Añejo. You'll be drinking it and you'll be like, this can't possibly be tequila, but it is. It's absolutely amazing. I'm excited about it. A lot of people are supporting it, and that's what I'll be drinking later today. But it's 10 o'clock in the morning, so I can't do that.
It's actually his tequila, Gia.
Okay.
Yeah, he failed to mention that part. It's actually his.
Failed to mention that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jimmy, we like tequila. We like tequila.
Well, let me tell you, I will make sure to get you guys all a bottle at the end of this show, and I promise you, all I want you to do is once you try it, I want you to tell me how it tastes. But because I'm very serious, there's nothing better. I wouldn't get involved with a tequila brand or any sort of alcohol brand if I didn't think it was one of the top ones that I've ever tasted. So I'm excited about it.
So here's my question to you. I've recently started getting into Mezcal, right?
Yes.
What's the difference between tequila and Mezcal?
There is no difference. All tequila is Mezcal, right? It's all from the agave plant. Yeah. It's just the way that it's processed. So Mezcal has a more smoky taste to it, whereas tequila typically has more of a smoother taste with a bite at the end. Mezcal and tequila, as we know it, will often have that sort of bite, but Mezcal has more of the smoky flavors that you'll get, as opposed to tequila, where it's just a very smooth sort of taste without any of that smokiness, often more on a sweeter note. But I will tell you, prior to tequila becoming more of a staple drink, Jose Cuervo had come out with their tequila, right? And really what Jose Cuervo was agave, about 40% agave and 60% vodka with some food coloring. So that sort of tells you sort of the genesis of tequila and the tequila industry, whereas you're now starting to see more premium tequilas come out. Clase Azul has a pretty good brand. Don Julio, which has always been somewhat decent, has introduced more premium line with the 1942. And then many people know sort of Casamigos, which is a good middle grade tequila that people will taste. But and then there are some more well-known premium brands like Mandala and things like that. So you run across the whole gamut of tequilas, but I do enjoy Mezcal. I like the smokiness. When I drink Scotch, a whiskey, I like a smoky Scotch or whiskey. But when you look at this bottle, it's very different than you would typically see in a tequila bottle. Yeah, sure. So this is our Extra Añejo, and this particular bottle looks more like a decanter, right? Something you see from a Scotch or whiskey. And so it gives it a little bit more class, a little bit more elegance to it. But again, I promise you guys, and I do this all the time, whenever I, provide this to my clients or friends, I say, this is the best in the world. They don't believe me. We do a taste test and they can't even believe how their socks are knocked off from the taste that they get from this. It's such a different taste, and it really helps the tequila industry in general, where it becomes more palatable Some people like that bite if you're a tequila purist, but most of us don't want that, right? We want to have a good tequila, and then it's just ruined at the end by this face you make. You're like, God, I can't do it again. This one you can sip all day, and you won't have a single issue continuing to drink it, which is a good thing if you're having a rough week.
What is it called again?
It's called Vuelo, Vuelo, for flight.
Very good. So what's been going on with you? How's COVID been treating you in work and all that good stuff?
Me personally, it's been busy. I think that for my office, we have cases all over the country. So there are some jurisdictions that are open, while California has been a little tough. Whether it's the state court, which just recently opened up. Federal court's kind of been open up, but the doors are closed to whatever extent. But when I have cases in Mississippi or Tennessee, Georgia, those are still alive and well and kicking and moving forward. So when it comes to the law, even if we're not in the courtroom, we're often really busy, engaged in discovery, other aspects of litigation, signing up new cases, so on and so, advising clients. So it's a busy time right now, and it's tough for everybody because at least for lawyers, we don't know what deadlines are what anymore. All sorts of rules have changed. It's just somewhat of a mess right now, but you just have to try to keep organized, knowing that your office is unable to go in and there's not a lot of support staff to help you.
How have you been doing being locked down? You're pretty busy, B. You're all
I've been locked down to some extent, but unfortunately, fortunately, I'm still traveling quite a bit. I try to be as safe as possible. I'm not really stuck in my house per se, just because my work has me kind of going everywhere. So, I maintain, I make do. Usually around this time of the year, I'm somewhere off in the world, but it's okay to be here in Los Angeles. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of important things that are happening, and I'm to some extent excited about a lot of the changes that are occurring, both actually and within the sort of mental psyche of America.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, it's just disappointing, and it's consistent, it's constant, and it's draining. It's just tough to deal with this. But many of us on this Zoom video call, we deal with it on a daily basis, right? In some way, shape, or form, we have to deal with the issues that are currently being challenged. And the public sees it, whereas us as individuals in our professions, we're often dealing with it time and time again, and no one knows what's going on. No one sees it. It's not really happening because it doesn't exist in their world. But the minute the world had to sit down for a second and be quiet and just kind of watch because you didn't have anything else to do, you sort of start to see some of the things that my office has been fighting for years, since Johnny was around.
Yeah. Very good. Miss Sarita, what's in your cup? What you been up to?
Today it's just water, but I have a Mahogany Box exclusive with my name on it. So I, just busy, but really grateful to be busy because the alternative is not what I'd like. Just making sure that just continuing to build the division of the mental health and wellness division of Love Renaissance record label. So we're doing really well with that. It's been really a learning time for everyone because of COVID and the uprising and just all the different things that I don't know if we really took into account how it was going to impact just the all-around psyche of the staff and the executive team and the artists and things. So we're just really trying to, as an organization, be really thoughtful in addressing it. So that's great. Grandpa's doing good. He is finally out the hospital, which is awesome. He was ready to go, and I think they were ready for him to leave. So now he and I are, making sure that we are falling into our new normal. It's a lot of work, but I think we're handling it really well, the both of us. And so he's been really awesome, just being a team player and me doing my best to not lose all my mind. But it's been really good. I think what has been really helpful for me is shifting my perspectives, because a lot more has been placed on my plate in the last month or so, and probably longer than that. But I'm really, really grateful for it. Like, even in the times when I may be tired or feeling overwhelmed, I realized that this is exactly what I signed up for. And both with my grandfather and with the label, this is things that, you know, Tanya and I and Gia and I have been talking about for a really, really long time. And so I feel like it would be a slap in the face to the universe to be like, oh, I'm so tired, I'm so busy. Because I'm living my dream, and I'm doing my dream, and I feel like I'm doing really great and impactful work. Well, at least that's my hope. And that we'll start just pushing this as much as we can, and being a standard in entertainment. You know, that's the goal of WRN and the goal for myself.
I would actually love to hear from you and Jimmy how COVID and you know, the racial issues and the election, the pending election coming up, are affecting the entertainment industry, particularly the urban entertainment industry.
Hey, Tanya, before we go there, I just want to say something. Sarita, hold up that nice little cup again. Because I don't want, you know, in this day and age, because you said a Mahogany Box cup, and I want to make sure it's not a Mahogany Box cup. Mahogany Box gifted you the cup, but the cup came from my sister, Simply Beautiful and More. Because I don't want her, because she watches the show, so I don't want her calling me, you know, like, who banging on me, because you know, we from LA. Yeah, right. See, and so I don't want her trying to raise up on me, and then I have to raise up, you know.
And then you got to raise up on me because she was raising up on you.
Right. Yeah, so we don't want none of that. So let's, you know, that's a Simply Beautiful and More cup. She does beautiful work. You know, we both are creators, but that's her work. I want her to get to do her credit for her creation.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. No who banging.
So yeah, tell me about the entertainment industry and how it's being affected by COVID and everything that's going on. Like, what do you see? How obvious is it with your interactions with your clients?
I guess I can answer first. It's been a disaster. COVID has been an absolute disaster to some extent.
Yes.
You know, obviously, a lot of my clients at this point in time are touring all over the world, and touring's been canceled.
Yep.
It's a mess, and
we are officially cancel culture.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, touring right now is where a lot of artists make a large portion of their money. And without having the ability to do that, they're stuck in a tough position. What I will also say about music right now, you know, with the labels as well as with artists, is those artists that are doing well streaming are doing extremely well. Streaming is doing better than it's ever done. So that's okay in the music industry. But again, you know, music deals are still getting done. Labels are still paying money to record. Streaming has really kind of shown that it's a very powerful tool. You've seen the internet being used as different artists and producers and DJs have used the internet to do battles, so on and so forth. So that's great. And I think music has really helped people get through, you know, this really tough period. As it just relates to COVID, the film industry is devastated by it, obviously, from the fact that theaters are closed to filming. Filming right now just isn't happening. Every time, you know, we think that it's about to move forward, you know, you have a relapse, and projects have been stopped right in the middle of it. As soon as LA opened a couple weeks ago, other states opened a few weeks ago, and now they're starting to get shut down again because of COVID. You can't do international films because they're not allowing Americans in. Plus, you know, the Guild is dealing with a challenge as it relates to insurance, right? Do actors do insurance waivers as it relates to COVID? Because the insurance companies are not going to insure anything related to a pandemic. Bond companies then will say, well, we can't bond this project because you know, we're not going to at least hold liability in the event COVID happens. So it's just a domino effect that's really impacting the film and television industry, and it's been tough on actors. It's been tough on crew. It's been tough on production companies because that's where they make their money. And it's hard as it relates specifically to COVID.
Now, Sarita, from a mental health standpoint, I'm guessing that, you know, it must make things worse. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, because until we were able to figure out all the things that Jimmy just spoke about, you know, it took a minute for everyone to kind of recalibrate and pivot to see how they were going to move in this time. And it's an undetermined amount of time. So that is creating a lot of anxiety with all levels of people, because it's just, you know, like Jimmy was speaking about how certain states and cities opened back up and production ramped back up, or not ramped back up, but was getting back to a space or a time. You know, with the influx of COVID cases, we had to shut that down again. So it has been very uneasy in many of the parts, even though, like Jimmy said, the streaming and the recording is still happening. There's still a lot of uncertainty. And when there's uncertainty, there's anxiety, there's feelings of depression, because people just don't know. And the way in which they were making money before has to completely shift. So that's also a challenge to especially newer artists, because there are a lot of new artists who was just getting into it and their shine was just happening, and they rely a lot on touring, and that isn't able to happen. So labels have to be really creative on how they're marketing their newer artists right now. More established and seasoned artists maybe a little bit better, but not much. What I will say is that everyone creatively is on an equal playing field. So that's something, because everyone is starting at a place of the unknown. So I think that's great for artists that can figure it out. And sorry for the background. There's it's a Monday morning, so people are getting their grass and such.
We couldn't tell. I'm telling you, I didn't hear anything, just so that you know.
I'm glad.
Jimmy has selective hearing anyways.
Oh, okay. So that may not be indicative to what's actually happening, and may just be the fact that selective hearing is happening. Got it.
Well, you know, again, like I said, didn't bother me. I was good. What I'll also say, I'm going to answer part of the second question as it relates to you know, even the term urban, right? I know you mentioned urban music. One of my clients, her name is Amaya Davis, and she's with Republic, which is one of the large record labels. Republic recently changed their urban title, right? And that was Amaya. She said that I don't want to have this title of what does urban mean? And so why don't we change that? I know a lot of people didn't realize that it was from an African-American woman who was tired of it. She's a young boss, you know, with Republic right now. She's doing amazing. And, you know, she wanted to change the conversation about how, you know, music, you know, from people of color, Black people is treated, right? What is this whole topic of urban? But you have a lot of artists and actors who, one, I really appreciate how they allowed the people, the general public to voice their opinion. They didn't jump into the debate too early. They wanted people to have an opportunity to voice their opinion and not take it upon themselves to be sort of the face and you know, the attention of what was happening. And so, but there are a lot of people working on a number of different things. You'll probably see this coming out pretty soon. You know, Macy Gray, who's another one of my clients, she's been working with a number of the mothers who've lost their sons. Some big cases. And she's working with them right now in terms of creating a video talking about what happens to those mothers and those grandmothers when all the lights have turned off and the cameras are no longer rolling. What happens with their lives and what kind of support do they have? You know, some were able to get some monetary compensation, and we'll probably talk about this a little later with a Section 1983 action, but others didn't get anything. And even then, you know, these women are taking, you know, over the lives of their grandchildren. You know, they've had and they have not recovered. And we talk about the mental aspect of it. They are struggling. They are struggling every day. They talk about how they don't want to be on this earth anymore. They have a gaping hole in their lives because their sons have been taken away way too early. So you have so many different actors and music artists who are, people of color who are hurting. They're hurting themselves. And you see some terrible things happening in the news recently, as far as sort of the challenge of what Black artists and Black actors are facing mentally, right? You saw Tamar, who tried to commit suicide this past weekend. Again, I love Tamar. That was one of my previous clients, and she was expressing her issues with, how she felt like she was being treated, right? And it was a challenge with the network, and allowing her to do things that she wanted to do, and they wouldn't let her do it. And she was just dealing with a lot of stuff, and she nearly took her life. And that is the saddest thing that one can face. So you have to understand that these are not sort of isolated incidences. Many of these artists and actors are dealing with these mental challenges, and they may not be saying it, but it's happening, and they're by themselves right now. A lot of these folks are isolated just like us, and without the people around them who have been able to keep them sort of feeling better or constant or stable. You're just sitting there many times during the day by yourself, and you're not used to it, and it's a challenge. So I think it's been really hard to deal with the exhausting nature of what happened with all the protests and all the terrible things that people kept having to read about with regard to George Floyd and everybody there before that, and people that happened after that. It's just been challenging, and it's been mentally exhausting for a lot of them. And I think all of us, no matter which side you're on.
And I believe that it's really important for people to know that, just because you see people on TV or you hear them coming through your speakers, they are human. And I believe that sometimes as a consumer, as a fan, we forget that people are human. And so it's been really important for me to support artists and creatives with developing that voice and being able to seek out the support that they need, and making it something that is a mandatory thing. We're piloting the initiative with LVRN, but the goal is to have, myself be in my consulting firm, going into every record label, every production house, and having a actual mental health and wellness division of every record label, of every entertainment space, because we need the infrastructure. Just like a person has their team, whether that's their choreographer, their PR person, I think it's just as vital to have your therapist that understands the business and the world in which you live in, because Hollywood or entertainment as a culture is it's a different entity. It's unlike any other industry, and there's some idiosyncrasies to that is really important when everybody that's engaging understands the platform. So that's reason that Just Be Consulting is vital, especially during this time. And my hope is that, I can just get it and make it as everyone sees the value in it, because more now than ever, we can't continue to bury people. And I think in entertainment, we've been seeing a lot of that with addiction, overdose. It's been a lot in the past few years. And I think it's now time for us to make mental wellness an integral part of the industry as we do everything else.
I have a question, because I'm not in the private industry and I'm not in the entertainment industry like the two of you guys, but this is for you, Jimmy. When it comes to contracts, because it sounds like you do a lot with contract law when it comes to entertainment. And
Sure.
do you see, or is it going on right now in these contracts that the record labels are writing with their clients or potential clients? Are they going to write in a mental health piece of the contract where it's kind of maybe a requirement, or that if it's suggested, maybe they seek mental health counseling or something like that? Do you see that? Is that possible? Can a company do that to an employee? Because I know for me, I work for, for the county. So we have they have all kind of different places and things that a person can go to. And being in law enforcement, we have what they call employee support services, where you can go if you want to seek counseling. And it's all, confidential and things like that. It's available to all the employees, but also as a manager and supervisor also too, we also can suggest that people go and recommend that people go and see employee support services.
No, they wouldn't build into the contract because the label doesn't care necessarily about that. They just want to know that you're putting together these records, right? I mean, not well, I see your hands up straight up. You got to unmute. Not all record labels don't care. I say the majors, right? We're talking about the major
That's what we're changing here.
Yeah, exactly. So what and this is specifically to Sarita's point and to your point, Gia, we're talking about, these mental health problems. You're running into a couple issues. One, telling people what to do about their health per se. And it's a contract. They're not employees. This is a contractual obligation, right? And so you're going to run into all kinds of, HIPAA, medical violation, all sorts of things like that. And they're going to say, you don't control me and tell me I need to go see somebody. And again, labels could potentially use that as a way of harming, these artists, a way of taking away things from these artists. So you got to be careful with that. So what really has to happen, it's got to be the people around them, right? It's got to be their managers. It's got to, even their label, right? You should have somebody who's close, whether it's your A&R person or even, a VP or the head of the label, making sure to talk to their clients and saying, hey, are you okay? What's going on? But that's why they have a manager. That's why they have a business manager. Those people are supposed to be there, and lawyers. I mean, I have served as counselor many, many times. For whatever reason, I am often a psychiatrist, even though I don't want to be.
And you don't have to be. You don't have to be. That's what I'm here for. And I think that's a great point that you're making, is that, we all have our designated roles. And I think it's important for the people that have the expertise to be in those spaces, because it's a lot. It's a lot working with an artist or with the staff and being outside of your scope. And that's what Just Be Consulting is there for, is so that it's the support to the managers, it's the support to the lawyers and people in the A&R execs who have played therapists before, but that not being their expertise. Just like my legal advice would be completely subpar to what Jimmy can provide. So I think that it's important for us to bring in and have a squad of heavy hitters like you would for anything else, and having a mental health heavy hitter is important.
And Sarita, what I will say is just make sure we connect after, because I think, what you're talking about is completely accurate, right? There's been a number of forums on, artists and mental health, right? Macy Gray being somebody who has admitted that she's suffered from bipolar disorder. She's had a lot of challenges in life, but, once she had the right folks in her life, it really started to change a bit, right? And she's been on a really, really positive path lately. But here's the deal. We don't have, or we aren't aware of, or it's just not a common thing for people of color in general to seek out therapy. And part of it is because, maybe they don't necessarily want to talk to someone who doesn't look like them because of a distrust issue that they may have. And so, finding somebody who, looks like them and can maybe potentially relate to them and some of their challenges is important. So again, whatever I could do to introduce you to managers and, other folks in the industry, so you can have those discussions if you haven't already spoken to a lot of people, that would be great. Because again, and I see this especially for musicians, artists, they think on a different plane. They just do. They are a creative. They think in a whole other world. I don't care what you guys say. It's another planet that I don't even understand. But at the same time, these creatives often deal with emotional and mental challenges. And that's why they have such great music, whether it's, classical music to R&B to rock to hip hop. It doesn't matter. You're expressing something. It's coming from your soul. Even if sometimes some of the hip hop we hear, we can't really quite understand if it's music or not. But it's an expressive thing, and it's talking about challenges. Whether it's articulated verbally or just through noise or sound. So I think that's critical. And I was hearing you talk about it earlier. And then they need, the industry needs more people like yourself, because these are challenges that they're facing alone by themselves right now.
Yeah.
I think Yeezy is I'm just saying, I think Kanye right now is a really great.
Can we not even bring up Kanye right now, please? Come on, you're gonna change the whole.
I think it's important to do so, because he, from a
But we've talked about this
standpoint,
before, actually. We've talked about him before. We've talked about him before, because it keeps getting worse, and the people that have obligation, I think, to help him seek support are not doing that. So we can talk it into circles, but it's what are we gonna do besides? And I can't even look at it anymore. It's pretty upsetting, right? It's just, we got him out there looking like a clown. So what kind of representative? It is, but he also represents us, which is sad too. So that's a whole different.
The challenge, Tanya, is that some people, here's the danger with allowing and not, and sort of what Sarita's point is, even though we don't want to talk about all the nonsense he was talking about yesterday, the problem with him is this: if he is having a mental fit or some sort of episode, and he's articulating nonsense, just complete and utter factual nonsense, or basically untruths, right? Or rewriting history, or whatever he's talking about, there are people out there who don't bother to look to see whether or not he's telling the truth, and they believe it to be true. Right. Or it'll justify the position of those people out there who want to make that claim, who want to say, oh, I don't care about this whole black issue thing. Kanye West said it's ridiculous, so even your own people. And so it has all these sort of negative impacts that, you would think that he doesn't have that much support, but even 1 to 2% of the population in this country supporting that man means that he's got an impact nonetheless. And it's going to change the conversation to some extent if he doesn't get help and he continues to go out there and talk this nonsense. So that's just the reality of it.
As a mother sitting here listening to him talk about how he almost killed his daughter, and no one pulled him off that stage or wrapped their arms around him and applied any kind of resistance or support, watching that is really difficult. Like I said, as a mother, I was like, where is his wife? Like, what? On some level, it's heartbreaking. And what if he is doing that for, some people say, okay, well, he's doing that for publicity. This is his thing. Every time he's about to have an album drop or something happen, he does something wild like this. But that, and his album coming out with his mom's name, those are critical indicators that something is off. Even if there was an element of promotion, there's a critical issue going on right here. And those that have the ability to help him not doing it is also a huge humanitarian disappointment. It is awful. And it's hard to continue to speak about it, because that's one of those things we don't have control over. So, we talk it in circles every time he does this. And those that have the opportunity to help him, are they? Like, we really don't know what's going on in their household, but those sounded pretty disturbing. Like, this weekend was disturbing to a point to where if you do know people, and all of you do, that have gone through emotional breakdowns, like this ain't regular entertainment promotion, right?
Yeah. And from a psychologist perspective, he's manic, and his mania is, I think it's, what I observe is two things: it's trauma and it's mania. And so the trauma of his mother and how that triggers episodes, and it's very classic. And when you're in that manic phase, yes, I want to hold the people around him more responsible. However, mania will give you this godlike complex to where you don't trust people, and it also creates an insane amount of paranoia. So with those two combinations, because he is on the platform that he's on, it's a recipe for destruction, and not knowing who to trust, not knowing who to be around. So there's a level of paranoia that doesn't allow him to receive intrinsically the support that he needs. And because they've hospitalized him. I mean, the fact that there's better ways or different ways, I don't want to say better, there's different ways to approach this situation. And, you know, medically or psychologically, I imagine that there are people there, they're just not people that look like him. There are people that get into those, that are in those circles for whatever the reason is, but they're not people that look like him, that can relate to him. And I think that, going back to Jimmy's point, the reason that I created the consulting firm is because we need people of color supporting and treating people of color. And that doesn't mean that it has to be Black folks and Black folks, but it's hard to understand what it's like growing up on the south side of Chicago now that you live in Calabasas and you're only interacting with people that know Calabasas life. He had a whole life before he got money. So I think those are things that cultural competency piece definitely is lacking.
One of the reasons we brought Jimmy on today is to talk about some more of the current issues that are going on. Yeah, Kanye's current yesterday, but the bigger issue is what's going on in the White House, what's going on and how those things affect our day-to-day life. And one of the things that I heard on the President Trump's last interview, I've never called him that before. It's been a big conversation recently about the history of this country. And it seems to bother some people so much that we are now really telling our history and correcting some of the wrongs and adding some of the things that have been alleviated. And, you know, he spoke yesterday to Wallace and said he's opposed to rewriting history books because it makes the founders seem evil and demonic. So I wanted to talk to you about Black history, the Black history we grew up with, and how you feel about changing history books. Do you think they need to be changed? I do, but I'd love to get your take on it. And then he also got into talking about immunity. With the new bill coming out to help people get through COVID, he wants it to include a level of immunity for businesses, because of course he wants all the businesses to open up and not have any kind of legalities attached to it. And then he went directly into talking about police immunity. And I know that Jimmy and I have definitely been having these conversations. So I wanted to go ahead and give the floor to him about those things, you know, Black history, voting, immunity for police officers, and just kind of get your thoughts and kind of go from there. So go ahead and take it, sir.
Sure. Thanks, Tanya. So I guess the first thing about rewriting history, right? It's not about rewriting history. It's about accurately reflecting what happened throughout this nation. It's not about demonizing the founders of this country. Look, way back in the 1700s, we lived in a different time, in a different era. And that doesn't mean that, when we look back right now and we talk about how our, original four founders, many of them owned slaves, it was a different generation, right? And so for us, we're not demonizing these people by saying that Thomas Jefferson owned lots of slaves. We're not demonizing these people by saying that some of the things that they did was wrong, or by really explaining, what really happened to African Americans, from slavery through, the current time, and what's happened to many people, from Native Americans, indigenous people, Latinos, Mexican Americans, Asians, the Chinese, how they were treated, Japanese in internment camps during the war, so on and so forth. So I think that what we need to do is accurately reflect what happened in history, because we're in a much more inclusive country. and it's much more diverse. And I think people need to understand, what really happened. So when he says, I don't want to rewrite the history books, I don't really know what that means, right? History is really just basically telling the story as most accurately as possible, as far as I'm concerned. Other people have their own story as far as what happened, and people try to change history that happened last week. And that's what his administration often tries to do, through a lot of gaslighting and deflection and creating facts. But the reality is, do I want to see a more detailed history about the truth, about what really happened in America? You hear a lot of these people running around the internet, whether it's, extreme right wing or extreme left, progressive, and people are all saying, I'm free thinkers and I want the truth. Well, if you really want the truth, when we try to tell you the truth, you say it's not the truth, right? So you run into these challenges. But I think, being able to accurately, tell, people what happened, right? What's the story? How did we become the country we are? It doesn't take away from anything that George Washington did. It doesn't take away from anything that Thomas Jefferson did. It may bring to light some of the awful presidents we've had. And we've had presidents that may very well have been more awful than Donald Trump, and that's pretty hard to do. So as far as what Trump's talking about, most of the time, I don't even listen to him because he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's just the reality of it. He has no idea what he's talking about at any particular given time, other than him trying to make money and him talking about himself. That's the only thing he knows. Other than that, he just rattles and guesses.
One of the reasons that was so striking to me is because at one of the conferences that they had, I heard someone ask Bill Barr about how they're going to feel about the history that was written about this administration. And his words were, history is written by the winners. And that lets you know that if we weren't on the winning side, which we weren't on many occasions, most people don't know the history. They just don't know it. And that's why this moment in COVID has been so shocking for so many people in the post-George Floyd. It's an eye-opener because many people that don't look like us think history is something different because it was written by.
Well, also, Tanya, that's because most people, the history they know is the history that they're taught in school. And the history we were all taught in school is not much and it's very limited. So then you say, okay, this is like for us, we all went to public school and we got that limited amount of history. It wasn't until I believe we probably went to college where we got an in-depth history about our people, through our college courses and things like that. But we had to seek it out. And a lot of people don't want to seek out history. They just, what they brought up knowing, learning, that's what they know, and they're good with that. But now it seems like like you said, all the things are going on and stuff is being told now that wasn't told way back when. So now some people are pausing and saying, wow, I didn't know. And some of them probably didn't know, but some of them did know, but just choose not to really deal with it.
And that's what you see when you're talking about a lot of our history, right? Although California has, sort of disbanded with the whole holiday for Columbus, and they call it Indigenous Peoples Day, you're having a big backlash against Junipero Serra. He was a missionary, and you found out sort of what, a lot of us had known sort of the terrors that he put through a lot of, Native or indigenous people here in California in order to, expand Christianity. But now people are starting to speak up. They're starting to speak up about all of these people who committed atrocities. And kind of like what you said, to the victors goes the history, right? We get to write history. So Columbus won. Other people throughout history who are bad folks won, and they got to write the history about who they are. And, we're also living in a different time, right? Where information is more freely accessible. Now, there's a lot of fake information out there, and we have to be diligent with what we accept as truth. But now that there's more information out there, it's harder to hide history. It's harder to hide what happened. Now, you can distract people. You can have people who are in power say, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to change. And then people are going to have to be quote unquote free thinkers and find out what it means for themselves. And again, you're right. I mean, Gia, a lot of us didn't learn because of the way curriculum is set up. A lot of us didn't learn many of this stuff until college. But guess what? Most people don't go to college. and especially our people. It's not something that we do on a large, scale basis, and just in general. So you have a lot of uneducated people, and when I say uneducated to the extent that they stopped at high school, so that's all they know, and then they didn't get an opportunity to learn more about the truth as we sort of go on. And a lot of times people don't want to bring up the subject because it's sore. They don't want to talk about it, right? Who wants to talk about the dirty laundry? Nobody wants to talk about dirty laundry in their family. Nobody wants to talk about the dirty laundry in the country, because then, you feel like maybe it erodes America in general. And I just don't think that's the case. I don't think that telling the truth is the case. It erodes us when we refuse to accept the truth when the rest of the world knows it, right? It makes us more powerful being able to accept the fact that we were not a perfect country when we started. And Barack would always say this: I want to create a more perfect union. And there's a very specific reason why he's saying that, because he's saying, look, we're here and we're not going anywhere. And since we are here, let's acknowledge the past. Let's acknowledge the things that have happened, but we also need to move forward and try to make this as much of a perfect society for us as possible. But we can't do that if A, we sit on our tails and complain and do nothing. B, we refuse to acknowledge what happened in the past. And it goes to psychology, right? I mean, think about it. You have this conversation about reparations again, and some people scoff at it and they say, well, why the hell are we talking about reparations? That's a ridiculous conversation. What, we're going to pay every Black person in America X amount of dollars? That's not happening, right? Well, part of it is Black people feel wronged. They just feel wronged, and they feel like the country's never really, what, you gave us freedom that we should have been entitled to anyway? Is that the prize? Well, thank you. I mean, we really didn't get real true freedoms until after the civil rights movement, which was about 50, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, right? It's crazy.
We still don't have it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. And we still have challenges, right? We don't have total freedom like everybody else. So, the question is, what do we do, right? What do we do? Do we sit there and do nothing about it? Do we start bringing it up? Do we force our legislators, our elected officials, our school boards? And that's what you have to do when we talk about the local level, the school boards, and the state level with the state legislature. We have to revise the information that our children are reading, right? What kind of history? And again, states have the right to do that. School districts have the right to do that. The federal government cannot force a state to tell us that we can't teach our children X, Y, and Z. And that's the separation of powers we have between the state and the federal government, right? And so there are ways to do it, to change history, and to change history to accurately reflect what happened. But it takes a lot of people to come together on the state and local level to have school districts do it. I mean, there's still some school districts across this country that teach creationism as opposed to evolution, right? And now, whatever your religious beliefs are, that's fine, but evolution really happened, right? So you can't say it didn't happen. But there are going to be those school districts out there that teach creationism, and we were created in 7 days, and that's just technically that's not accurate. And I'm not trying to tell somebody that their religious beliefs are wrong, but there's more to it. Maybe those 7 days are really 7 billion years. Who knows? Who knows how long a day really was? But that's sort of what I mean when I'm talking about changing history. And again, I think both Sarita and Gia brought up some really good points. So, like, what's the solve? The solve is going to the state legislature, going to your local school boards, your school districts, and talking about what's the curriculum. What are we teaching our children? What is the curriculum on history? And why can't we start creating a curriculum that's more reflective as to what actually happened? Because at the end of the day, there was a war, and then there was a battle, right? There's a battle, and then there's a war. And although, as Barr says, who's a horrible human being, I'm sorry, he's a horrible, 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 horrible human being, and he should be disbarred, and that's my opinion. Because what he's doing, it just breaches every fundamental level of what an attorney's oath is about. But what I will say is that, at the end of the day, we have to have people, accurately reflect what history says, right? We have to have people accurately reflect that, and we can do that within our own, sort of localized areas.
I wanted to I think we're going to wind up having to bring you back. Maybe we'll bring you and Ray back at the same time so we can get into the entrepreneurship of it.
And Gia ain't even said nothing all day. I think we've been taking up the whole conversation.
No, Tanya, I was getting ready. I couldn't even get it out. I was getting ready to say, Jimmy, I want to have you back. We got to bring you back. And I was getting ready to get on Tanya and Ray for keeping you hidden for so long, because I'm like, wait a minute now. Really, 2020, and I'm just now meeting James Bryant. Something is wrong here. Okay,
well,
we have to have you back.
Tanya about to get that smoke.
Hey, Gia, I have a question for you. I got a question for you. One of my really good friends who's no longer here with us. Please tell me you knew Sheriff Tony Hackett.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
That was one of my that's family. So
yes, I knew Tony very well, and he is missed. Like, oh my God, see, we got to get together, because
yes.
I see, you know what, Ray and Tanya, y'all in trouble.
Listen, you know, Derek and Shalisa, that's family too. So Derek out in Ontario, and then obviously Manny, crazy Manny.
Okay,
we gotta watch out for him.
Listen, you heard Jimmy say he travels a lot. Okay, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. But I want him, before he leaves, to get into qualified immunity. I want you to explain to people what it is, why it is important, and would it benefit our criminal justice reform that we're looking for?
All right, so qualified immunity, really quickly, there's the qualified immunity relates to civil cases. So what happened in 1871 was they passed the Civil Rights Act, which was basically the KKK Act. And it essentially allowed for Black people to be able to sue federal government officials or government officials in general. A lot of times there were many KKK members who were police officers, politicians, so on and so forth. And there was no recourse for Black people to bring legal action against any of these government officials. So they passed that act in 1871, which was later codified into what we all know as Section 1983 or USC 1983, which allows people to bring claims against the government for, excessive force, so on and so forth, violations by public officials. And so it's from the civil action. Now we talk about this concept of qualified immunity, right? Well, let me tell you, for almost 100 years, there was no such thing as qualified immunity. And it wasn't until about roughly 1967 when the courts said, all right, well, and this is when more Black people actually started filing lawsuits. This was right after the civil rights movement. And now Black people are starting to take action. Whereas before, if you took action as a Black man in the South against a government official, you might have took action, but they will hang you, right? That was a reality. That was you're gonna have a cross burning in front of your home and they're gonna get you. But by 1967, the courts had said, well, maybe we should say, did they act in good faith, right? And so maybe there should be an exception to this particular rule where if somebody's constitution is violated, maybe we could say if they acted in good faith, we'll give them an exception here. And then by 1982, that's when things really got bad in a case called Harlow v. Fitzgerald. And what the court said there was they completely gutted your ability to take action against a government official by saying that there has to be prior precedent in order to hold a public official or a law enforcement officer responsible for violating your constitution. So what does that mean? What that means is this: if there hadn't been previous case law about somebody, let's just say law enforcement, for example, let's just say a law enforcement goes into a home, they bring a dog, the dog attacks one of the people, and they didn't do anything wrong. The dog just went crazy, used excessive force, right? Well, if there was no case like this before, even if you bring a lawsuit against them under Section 1983 excessive force, the courts would have to basically say that this case must be dismissed because the officers are immune because they wouldn't have known that this was a constitutional violation because there was no prior precedent. Now, this is obviously one of the biggest challenges that we face as civil rights attorneys, because for us, you would actually have to have some sort of past case in order to show that this case should not be dismissed, despite the fact that that someone's constitution has been violated. So it is sort of this court-created rule that was never a part of the Civil Rights Act that has really sort of caused these major problems with us allowing people to get away with violating the constitutional rights of American citizens. Here, it allows somebody with almost complete impunity to commit certain acts that would basically allow somebody to get off. We talk about George Floyd, for example. It's a possibility that if this case wasn't as big as it is right now, and it would have just been filed, there was a likelihood that George Floyd's family would lose their case in a motion for summary judgment based upon qualified immunity, because there aren't too many police kneeling cases out there where somebody has been, where you have the exact situation. That's the challenge, right? And I know it shocks people, but that's the reality of it. So, it's a battle that I fight as a civil rights attorney in many of our cases. And I'll tell you, I know Gia is with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and they're very familiar with our firm. We've got multiple cases right now, but here's the deal. Just because we
wait a minute, you don't have none with my name, do you?
None with your name, of course not. Of course not.
Okay.
But that's a major hurdle, and qualified immunity must be eliminated. It's not a should, it must be eliminated. It was never constitutionally granted. And one of the things that I'll say about this is when we allow for individuals to have an exception or to excuse a violation of our U.S. Constitution, and this is all for all those constitutionalists out there, those people running around with their little constitution saying, I have my constitution, I'm a constitutionalist. Let me explain something to you. If you allow for even a single violation of our U.S. Constitution, you erode that document and you make it meaningless. If it's okay to justify acting beyond the scope or some form of excessive force or acting as judge, jury, and executioner, when you're not constitutionally mandated to do that, then our Constitution doesn't mean anything at all. And so that's why it's so important to hold people accountable. And we can have this, this could be an entire discussion with Jim, myself, and you and whoever else to talk about why, we believe, qualified immunity should be eliminated versus I know many officers are going to say, hey, well, what about our protections? And we could talk about that too. I get it. It is an extremely difficult job. And let me tell you, as much flack as law enforcement gets for, some of the terrible things that some of the officers have done, there's so many more out there who do such amazing work. And the problem is, when departments aren't speaking up or unions are getting these folks who are bad back their jobs again, or, people like Gia, I'm sure, who've probably voiced their concerns and been shut up at times because that's just how it works. That hurts all those law enforcement officers across the country who are actually out there doing the right thing, being good people, trying to do what's right, and then getting frustrated because they're saying, why does everybody hate me right now? Well, because you got some friends who, they're acting up. They're acting up and they continue to act up. But, as far as the criminal aspect goes, we passed AB 392 last year, which created this sort of more a standard of necessary for law enforcement. What was it necessary? And then that would decide whether or not they should be criminally liable, because the standards were really, 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 there's a high bar to convict the officer, right? So they changed the language to necessary. The police unions got involved and they didn't want to have a definition of necessary. They just used the word necessary. So now it's been a mess. So right now we're working to actually put a definition in a new bill that's being developed right now, where by Dr. Shirley Weber, who is trying to now put in language that's going to define necessary, right? Is it necessary to take? What are you doing? So that's sort of the impact. And I know it's really, because I know we're short on time, and that's the impact of qualified immunity. It's civil. The penal code is what addresses criminal actions by all people, including law enforcement. And the penal code, changing that on a state level is critical, but it also goes hand in hand with qualified immunity. And so at the end of the day, why would we change that, right? Why don't we give cops the benefit of the doubt? Why, they already have a tough job. Here's what I say. When you start changing these laws, law enforcement officers will act better. There will be some people who will quit and they'll say, I don't want to deal with this. I don't. They also said that, they also said that, interracial marriages was wrong and it was going to erode the world. They said that slavery, if we allowed slavery to be disbanded, then that was going to cause a problem. If we allow same-sex marriages, that's going to be. They always say, if this happens, if cultural change happens, then officers are going to die. People, no, they're not. What's going to happen is good officers are going to feel more comfortable being able to tap a partner and say, hey, bro, relax, calm down. This is not the way we work. We enforce the law. We don't break the law, right? We don't violate people's constitutional rights. But when there's penalties, both civil and criminal penalties, you better believe people are going to be more astute, knowing that, hey, I better think twice. I am a trained professional. And this is a problem. And I'm talking to juries. Law enforcement officers are trained professionals. They are very good at what they do most of the time. And they have to be responsible for that if they want to put on that badge. And as a trained professional, a split-second decision is not a split-second decision to them, which would be the same as us, right? If I'm out there and I'm untrained, a split-second decision might be a split second. For an officer, a trained officer, time may slow down a little bit for them. Or they know what to do in those situations, or they know how to de-escalate as opposed to escalating the situation. So I think at the end of the day, if you change the laws and you enforce penalties, so some people don't feel like they're just completely immune to doing whatever they want to do. Because here's the deal: while you might not be killing people, do you know how many people are victims of excessive force that really have no claim because an attorney is not going to take on their case because a cop roughed them up, right? It just happens too often. And so I think that once you change the laws and there are penalties that will stick, you'll see the culture of law enforcement change. And I don't think that it's going to cause more officers to die, because an officer has the right to protect their lives. And if you have somebody who's out there shooting at people, you're damn right that officer has every bit of right to take somebody down. But when you are granted a license to kill and you have the ultimate responsibility of having the ability to take a life, it comes, it comes with some significant penalties if you abuse that power. So, I mean, I know I'm trying to condense all that. It's a much more complicated conversation, but I recognize that we have a timing issue, and I can get Gia back out here and we can have a longer discussion about this.
Yeah, we do need to have a longer discussion, because I agree with most of what you're saying, but also some things I would want to chime in on, because, being in this profession as long as I've been in it, it's different, and it's hard to get people who don't put on a uniform, who don't do this every day, to sometimes see things through, let's say, my eyes. And like, we were out watching something, for example, the other day, it was something happened with, I think with LAPD or somebody, or a protest downtown. And I just looked over to my husband and I told my husband, I said, if I'm out in the field and I'm working, once you put your hands on me, okay, on any of my equipment, you have changed the situation. And my whole attitude, my whole everything is now changing, okay? So if you're putting your hands on me, I'm here to do a job. I'm called there, and I'm trying to de-escalate the situation, but you're putting your hands on me. Now I have a right to, as you say, defend myself. And the thing is, people want to say, oh, well, you don't have to do this the way you did. Well, you're not, I'm only 5'3", okay? So I might not be able to, I'm gonna do what I gotta do to defend myself. And it might have to be putting my hands on somebody in a rough manner, just because I'm little, that kind of thing and stuff. But I do agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I want us to come back and have a conversation, because you have some good points, and I think we need to have more dialogue on both ends, because you're seeing it from, you're the attorney prosecuting or defending, or your clients and things like that against police, and I think everybody doesn't, they see all they see is shooting, us shooting people, and it's other, and the excessive use of force and things like that. But there's other things that they don't see, and they're not seeing it from the eyes of the good cop. Okay, I'm not talking about the bad cops that are doing rogue stuff, because they are out there doing rogue. And I do agree, if you change some of these bills, yeah, you will have people acting a little differently in their job, because now they understand that they can face a penalty for acting wrong. So you're right. in that aspect. So we will come back, Jimmy, and we will have some, we'll have some more conversation.
And I got to talk to you offline anyway, because I'd love to talk to you more.
Well, let the people know, Jimmy, what how they can get in touch with you if they need to, where they can follow you, and anything else you want to know, what you might have coming up.
Sure. So you can find me I'm a partner at the Cochran firm. So you can find me at the Cochran firm. Just Google it, Cochran firm, James Bryant. I will pop up. You can also find me, if you want, on Instagram, jbryant1911. There's a lot of, I don't know. My microphone kind of fell out, so I didn't know what you really asked me, other than being able to do that. If you do I have anything eyeball? I mean, I don't know, I got all kinds of cases and stuff coming up. We're always in the middle of yeah.
Did you do any
well, they can
for the brand?
What would you say?
Tequila.
Did you do a launch for the brand?
Oh, no, so here's what happened. We got our first shipment up from Mexico maybe a couple days before the COVID happened. And so we basically had to stop everything in terms of like what our overall strategy was. We were going to be introducing it a lot through DJs, high-end hotels, bars, and restaurants across the country. We had to obviously take a couple steps back. So right now we're just working with a lot of our brand ambassadors, very, very well-known names, people like that, getting it out there. And what I will do is, if people are interested in purchasing the tequila, they can go to vuelotequila.com. It's VUELO tequila.com, and that's where you can actually purchase the bottles. We're high-end, very premium. It's amazing. I'm telling you guys, what I'll do is I'll try to put a discount code at some point. We just haven't done that yet. We recently were able to start doing online distribution because of COVID. That was another challenge that all the liquor companies are dealing with, or brands are dealing with, that don't want to necessarily launch in stores because it doesn't make sense for us, right? We're a new brand. We don't want to have our distributor putting us on a bunch of shelves and people are like, what the hell is that, right? So you'll be hearing a lot more about it. But like I said, ladies, I will make sure. Now, Sarita, do you drink tequila? Okay, excellent. I'll make sure to get you guys all a bottle just so you can try it. And then next time I come back on, I want you to tell me what you thought. And I can guarantee you will say it is the best. There is no doubt about that.
Well, next time you come back on, we're going to have it in our cup. And we might have my morning coffee after dark, something like that, because we gonna have that tequila.
I will tell you, if you have your coffee, I'll tell you, if you have our reposado or our añejo with your latte or your black coffee, I can tell you right now, you'll be like, woof, Jesus Christ, what is going on here? It's really good. It's really, really good. I promise you guys. And I'll make sure that I get you guys that information, and I'll get your information so I can get a bottle out to you all.
Yes, and we will promote it on all our platforms. So, because we're about promoting others, so you can trust and believe we're gonna have your tequila out there, and you might not have to put no discount code. People, they got money. Go out there and buy the man's tequila. Stop playing, okay?
What do you guys have coming up,
Gia?
Miss Gia? What do you have coming up?
Nothing. Okay. Literally nothing. I'm gonna be creating. I'm coming out with some more product. You know me. I always got something in my head. I just got to get it to get myself. I got to sit down for a minute to get it done. I'm kind of on the go doing here and doing this and that. But I'm gonna come out with some more stuff. My Mahogany Box items, and that's pretty much it.
All right, Miss Sarita.
Just building LVRN. We're doing rollouts right now, so that's taking a lot of time, and balancing grandpa. So my time has become a lot more constrained, in a really, really excellent way. So, yep, I'm moving and grooving, shaking and baking, and staying grateful in the process.
Sounds good. And I'm just trying to keep everybody alive and well in the McKenzie house. But I do want to say, Jimmy is a longtime friend of mine. Very impressed with how his career has grown, and privileged to have been able to watch that. So as a friend of the shows and a friend of the families, we will definitely look forward to having you back.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I can't believe it's been almost 15 years I've been practicing law. Where'd all the time go? It's been crazy.
Yeah, we can get into that after a couple shots of that tequila.
See, the tequila keeps you looking young. That's I will tell you.
Oh, is that rub it on?
Look, rub me 2 bottles then.
I got you. I got y'all. I know people are like, who's this 25-year-old kid on here talking on your show, Tanya? What's going on? Like,
oh my God.
Come on, sir. Come on, sir.
Acting up already. All right, you guys, take it easy, be safe, be healthy, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye.
See ya.